You know, I've been really upset at today.
No, I told you he was upset.
I was really upset because I found out that there's a Guinness shortage. Because apparently
I heard about this.
Gen Z or Boomers or whatever, Zoomers or whatever you want to call them, are getting into Guinness.
Zoomers are getting into Guinness.
Some young.
It's to do with. This is what I said to our good old friend Kirk Dubé or Dube, whatever you want to call him. But from what I was told or what I read, it was because everyone started doing the whole splitting the G.
Split the G, yeah.
And that's become kind of viral, so now everyone's doing it. Yeah.
How have I missed this? I don't know what this is. Am I going to have to be a boomer and just type this into Google right now?
Do you not know what splitting the G is? You don't drink Guinness, do you?
Harry had to go at me this afternoon because...
For splitting the G?
No.
Social media trend drinking challenge. Taking a large sip and landing the line between the liquid and... Sorry. I'm trying to let people know... Well, hang on. Can I explain to the viewer what splitting the G is, please?
Yeah. Go.
Taking a large sip of Guinness and landing in the line between liquid and foam half.
No, carry on.
No. Google it yourselves.
No, it's splitting the G. Splitting the G, and okay, you can correct. I'll say what I think it is, and then you can correct me on the proper.
Well, I've got Google AI on my side. So
splitting the G is when you get the Guinness glass, and you're supposed to. When I went to the factory, they told me the reason as to why you should do it or take a first few gulps. Something to do with the nitrogen, I think, levels. You drink it up until the Guinness glass and the G. You've got to kind of split it with the level of Guinness, and you got to it's the best.
The line of the G, yeah.
Yeah.
There was two. I think it was either splitting the G or I think people have done split the hop before.
Sure.
Sure. But the bigger gulp is, I think, it's to the G, right? But it's just a challenge. You do it. You one bung it.
Yeah.
Get as close to the actual line itself, and that's the whole thing.
Because I put on my wish list the draft thing, like you can attach it to your can and you can draft it like an actual draft, I guess.
Well, you're meant to put the tin as far into a pint glass as possible.
That's
and
if you
slow
open it.
pour
Yeah. But they released this little contraption, and you know what I'm like? I'm a sucker for a gadget. It's something that you can screw on the can.
Evident.
And you gotta get special cans as well, obviously.
Of course you do.
Special cans.
And you can draft it down. So I demanded Harriet on the way home earlier.
Demanded, and that's why she's pissed off with you.
She was
a
on
stocking filler.
She was on a health visitor check with the baby, and I was like, I voice noted her as well. I was like,
Harry, I've got to split the G when you get back. Can you please get me my tools?
She probably wouldn't know what that reference means.
No.
Probably very confused.
Me, I know now.
Yeah.
Good.
But,
Joe's going to be doing it all over the shop now.
Yeah.
So long as it's not a shortage wherever he is.
Yeah. And then, of course, we got the Marcus Rashford news earlier, which was... I was so upset.
What about?
Yeah, what are you so
I mean, I'm not heartbroken, obviously. But
for the kids, really. For their lunches.
They might not be fed anymore.
I'm
Your kid might not be fed.
Like I've said to you, if any listeners are avid fans of the show, you guys know that I'm very obsessed with Manchester United in terms of drama and news. So I was all over this. So I was quite
for
happy.
you, it's like keeping up with the
Kardashians.
Yeah.
Joe, don't act like you didn't know what it was.
It
the
really
Glazers.
is. Keeping up with the
Glazers.
Glazers.
I was trying to think of a good. Yeah, couldn't think of a good.
No, it really is. It's great. It's just great content. It's good news. You know what I mean? Like, there's news and it's good news.
Yeah, we beat Man City. We had a great weekend. What are you complaining about?
I woke up the baby when Diallo scored. I stood up. I actually kind of leapt.
You were holding her and you stood up.
I leapt up. I thought that was such a good goal. I was like, fair play. Like I was really happy.
Nelly, you need to see this.
Yeah.
Wake up.
She's getting.
This
into
is history
TV.
Right now.
She's getting into watching TV at the moment, and she does like watching football because of the colours and stuff. So I'm taking her through it.
Yeah.
Taking her through it.
Does she know the offside trap?
The green hits home.
No,
yeah?
not just yet. She will.
No.
She will. What have you guys
She'll
been up
get
to then? Past couple of days.
Well, we watched a lot of the football. We were at Alex's. He was hosting while we were watching the Toronto stream, a little bit in the background, but also just getting together, having some grub. And you put on a really good spread on the Saturday.
It was yeah.
What was the thing that we cooked off of?
It's like a teppanyaki grill.
There you go.
So we just got that out, put some tablecloth down, got loads of meats, marinated it, some veg because we're all carnivores in reality. And we had it on in the background. So it was
mostly doing other stuff. And to be fair, we were putting on lots of baby songs as well on the main YouTube, which was cracking me up because someone then drilled into my head now.
Oh, is it like
give us a rendition, Joe? I dare you.
Well, Johnny is a liar
yes,
for a start, and I'm pretty sure that song teaches possibly the worst morals possible, which is like for the kid to learn to lie to their parents, then to double down, then to say ha 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 and run away into the next situation. So I don't know who came up with that, but is
it all the Coco Melon songs?
It's any sort of baby songs, but Hayley was pretty demanding that she was watching that for a while.
The Pokemon ones were good though. I still enjoy the Pokemon ones as an adult. And those ones seem to have like better moral values and standing.
If I'm not mistaken, what was the comment? It was better. Someone said better graphics than what we've had in the video games.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not wrong, right?
Which is fair.
Tamara got me onto those nursery rhymes. They are good, but they're very questionable choices for some of the farm animal nursery rhymes.
The choices of Pokemon.
What do you mean? They just did five letter Pokemon, right?
Well, especially for
Bingo.
the turkey, they chose a female.
Oh yeah,
which I was very confused at. But I don't know whether there's a more turkey-like Pokemon than a Fearow. Is there? Don't know if
Must
there is.
Be.
Then there's of course a Miltank for a cow, obviously. But
well, that works. You can't be angry at that.
Yeah, you can't be. Can't be a Tauros or something, can it?
No.
What kind of animal is a Fearow?
I just liked that Ludicolo is Old MacDonald. Apparently.
He's Old MacDonald. Yeah.
Yeah, and when a kid sees that, they're like, "What animal is that?
That's
what
a man.
Are you?" and that is human.
That's a human being. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
anyway,
good.
Probably confusing lots of people talking about this.
We are.
And then we cubed as well, which was fun.
Yes, we did cube.
Any good cubed decks? Decks?
We chaos cubed, so it was one of every Pokemon possible, which you haven't done for a bit. I won with loads of Metal Men. And Alex, how did you do?
My eyes lit up when I saw SP Pokemon and level X's, so I decided to play them all in a deck. And it was better than it should have performed, but it is what it is.
05 then.
You decided to give me an extra loss just for the lulls, did you? Yeah, all right.
Was
I
Alex
would have
the one
battered
to,
if I tell you.
Was Alex the one to play 3 games and not play the rest of it?
I didn't play Tim, I think.
Yeah.
Tim's deck
which
was
I would have lost, yeah.
Yeah.
I should have beaten Ben to begin with. It was a joke.
That's where it spiraled.
Was it Metal Lynx, Joe?
I had Metal Lynx and I had Metang as well, so I had just too much acceleration. I think the Metang might be too good, to be honest.
It's not the new Metang, is it?
Yeah,
new Metang.
Current Metang.
Yeah,
so I could reliably get like 4 energy into play.
I was about to
It's
say
like a reload, which is probably too much.
Well, you'll have to update us on to whether that's...
Yeah, I'll update it. I think it's not always been in the Chaos Cube. I don't even know if it's in Puka's, but I tried it in mine, and it was probably too good.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think it's probably... Like, we also played 60-card decks rather than 50, which is often how Puka does his. He does 50-card 5 prizes, and I think Metang is less broken there because you just simply have less space for energy. But I could play like 12 basic energy and reliably hit more than 1.
Yeah, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I better introduce the podcast for now. Welcome everybody to Spill the TCG podcast once again. Episode, I think, 25 now, which is crazy to think that we've even come this far. Joe still has the patience to join us for recording. Busy man. My name is Benjamin Rabiotti, joined again by Joe Bernard and Alex Dow. We've gone through some introductions, but in this episode we're going to talk about the latest Toronto Regional Championships, which has just happened this past weekend. We're going to touch upon also the Champions League in Osaka, I believe it is, which is this weekend. I even saw a couple of European players go over to that. I think it was, or I don't know if it was a couple or just Fabian I saw, but good luck to him. But we'll touch upon that, and also the impact or anticipation as to how Budew will impact the meta going into that tournament, which has been a hot topic of discussion amongst a lot of players. And then, of course, also we'll announce the winners of our Spillie's Annual Awards, which you've all been
big prizes
faithfully voting on. Big prizes. I have been working on the award for the great success. At the moment, it's just a block of wood with a cup on it. And I will be somehow...
We'll see when that gets in the end, then.
We'll be sharpieing in the name of that winner into the wood. And then, of course, if they are attending UIC, whoever it is, stay tuned for the winner, obviously. Then we'll take some photos, obviously.
I'm going to leave Ben to do that.
I feel like it's going to be one of those situations where they don't want to accept the award, so it's you just like taking a selfie holding the trophy near the player who's just playing on the tables.
I put it in your bag, mate. I put it in
your
bag. Just drop it in front of them whilst they're still playing and just be like, you left this.
In my head, I had the image of Michael Scott in The Office, where he's having a handshake with his boss and he's a bit like spaced out.
Yeah.
It's that's what I had in my head. So
let's aim for that.
Hopefully we'll aim for that. That's the bar at the moment. That's where we want to get to, I guess. But yeah, touching upon the Toronto Regional Championships, I know both of you have done your extensive research as to how the tournament had gone, and of course you had a chance to watch some of the live coverage of the event. Now, it seems that Regidrago had pretty much trounced the event with 6, I believe, making top 8, the final top 8, which was just another good showing of Regidrago, really, another showing of dominance. But there was also quite a varied meta, and I'll just present the day 1 statistics now before we get into any sort of discussion. So day 1, we had Regidrago 13%, still top in terms of representation, carrying on that number 1 spot. Charizard Pidgeot 11. Then it kind of gets a bit murky, so it goes from 7% all the way down further. So Goldengo actually making 3rd, finally having a good showing of representation. Then we have Raging Bolt, then Clorf, then Miraidon. People staying faithful to the Miraidon for the 2nd tournament in a row, I would say, since its regional win. So Joe, I'll start off with you, I guess, in terms of just what are we thinking in terms of those decks being selected? Is there any sort of trends or any sort of patterns that we're seeing here?
Well, I think the Regidrago is probably the only expected outcome on here. I think people probably expected around 5% Miraidon, but not necessarily expecting that to make the graphic. It shows that there is still just like so many decks to pick from. There's some big decks like not on display, like Gardevoir, Lugia, for example, continuing its sort of like hiatus. Dragapult Ironthorns, I think, listening to Uncommon Energy, they said it was like 7th slot, so that just about missed out on the graphic, probably just sat around that sort of high 4 or low 5% margin. And I expected there to be a lot more Clorf than there was actually. I expected Clorf to be the most played aggressive deck, but there are still those Bolt believers out there. And Golden Go, yeah, it had some good showings, obviously, in the last couple of regionals, went quite far, but to see sort of more widespread belief in the archetype was kind of interesting to see when its matchup spread is still kind of middling, I feel like. But yeah, a lot of people taking the risk with Golden Go. I still personally don't understand the Charizard being around that 12%. I've said this for months now, but it continues to be played at the top tables, continues to not make too many top placements, I suppose. Like, it did have a win in this format, to be fair. So possibly that's the sort of belief coming back with the deck. But it's weak to the best deck in format, which is still so weird to see it being continually played as the 2nd most deck. But just continues to be a diverse metagame, which I think is like the core takeaway from the day 1 field.
Yeah, I would agree. I think for the Gold Dingo, I think Energy Search Pro has obviously made a big impact into that archetype, and people seeing that it is a lot of fun taking that to a big tournament, and it's just a very interactive deck. Taking big swings and
interactive.
That's your definition of interactive,
so.
is it?
I think so.
Togekiss.
I had a chance to play it yesterday actually at locals, and it is a good bit of fun.
I don't doubt it's fun. Interactive, I kind of question. Most of them don't even play a hand disruption card, do they? They don't care what you're doing. You're just trying to do your own thing.
You're interacting with your own deck, Joe.
Bear in mind, this is coming from a Snorlax player, so interactive for me is like solitaire. And it is that to an extent, isn't
Snorlax is more interactive.
Your opponent's giving you a number, and then you're going, "Can I hit it? How do I get there?"
What? That's the interaction.
Interacting with myself.
Interaction is in they're actually talking to you this time, rather than just seething quietly as they pass.
Well, yeah, carry on.
No.
Now, Alex, last episode you spoke about Cloth and how its matchups are actually pretty good on paper. And then Joe obviously touched upon how it's quite low represented, I would say, for what it is. Do you think there's any sort of play to that? Now, I just wanted to touch, actually, just before I give it over to you, I think Cloth, I touched on how some decks can be intimidating to look at, which was Iron Thorns and Dragapult. But I think Cloth is also intimidating, I would say, to somebody.
That's actually intimidating.
Yeah, to somebody who isn't, maybe well tested or isn't too confident.
As in intimidating to pick up and play, you mean?
Yes. Do you think that has a part to play in it?
I definitely think it's a deck that probably needs a little bit of testing. You definitely need to put some time into it. I personally didn't think it would go higher than that 6%. So I'm a little bit different to Joe from that perspective, only because it's one of those decks that's been very heavily highlighted in the last couple of weeks now. It's got some inherent weaknesses about it, and I think everyone's starting to expose that a little. It still obviously is a very good deck, and it will still hit into a load of matchups for weakness, for big damage, with the poison tickers, etc. But decks like Regidrago, which is supposed to be a fairly, I say slightly favoured matchup by just slight tweaks, you probably make it 50-50 or maybe slightly unfavourable now, or it can be. And then that's probably why it is where it is at the moment. But people will always fall back on decks which they've played in a format that has pretty much been similar for quite some time now, right? Especially decks that have done well like Regidrago, Charizard, Raging Bolts, etc. You'll just see a mixture of these kind of beat stick type decks. Sort of the percentages kind of shift between them depending on how people feel for a particular tournament, or depending on the crowd that actually turns up to a tournament. That's just how I see it at the moment, and I think I'd put it in the same category as those Miraidons or Raging Bolts.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I just wanted to touch on as well, going back to Goldengo. Now, it's interesting to see Dengo and Raging Bolt at a very similar deck count, 152 with Dengo and then 140 with Raging Bolt. Is there going to be a shift here? Because, of course, Raging Bolt was the favourite archetype, I would say, for the more aggressive player. Goldengo now going above Raging Bolt, I would say, for the first time in representation. Are we seeing a shift there? Is Energy Search Pro that enabler for Goldengo to get above Raging Bolt, or do we still see Raging Bolt as a better archetype?
Tough one to say. I don't think either of them are great, to be honest with you. I mean, Bolt did just get a top 4, which is something. But Dengo has had those top 4s in the bank in terms of like recent credit. So you can see why they're similar in play rates, but I'm not really inspired by either of them, to be honest.
Or are they playing wrong and Roaring Moon is the way to go? Because I'm a big advocate for that deck.
I know. Where is the Roaring Moon is the question. I think Moon had some decent placements, didn't it? I think it still had one or two good placements.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, it got top 32. I don't know, like, I'm just going to keep hating on these archetypes, but like there's always a place for these aggressive archetypes, be it Don, Bolt, or Dengo. They're trying to cheat prizes in different ways, be it like catcher flips or Togekiss flips.
Well, they're still played at a high level, right? 200, almost 300 players took both of these archetypes. So what do you think the pull is for those players in order to play
I just think
decks?
The format is in a place where like 15 different decks can win in 3/4 turns, and it's just how they finagle that and how they get towards that goal. So with so much of that capacity in the game, like you can pick the way you want to do it, basically. And these are admittedly some of the more consistent ways of doing it. Dengo can churn out the ridiculous damage when it needs to, and so can Bolt, and just a turn earlier, right? So they're at the top of the aggressive beat sticks for a reason. Like they're way better than like Ceruledge as an example, right?
Wow.
But they are still linear at the end of the day.
That was a word I've never heard used in my lifetime.
What?
Finagle?
Finagle?
Yeah, Fandango. And I've just Googled it. To trick, swindle, or cheat is what chose.
Thank you very much. I didn't just make up a word.
Hey, don't knock him at Scrabble.
Don't knock me at Scrabble.
There's a Q in that.
There is no Q in Finagle.
Lord.
Have you ever heard of Finangle?
Finagle? I don't know. Finagle? Yeah, anyway, moving on.
Cupboardy.
Anyway, let's go on to the day 2, shall we?
Yeah, actually just one more question before we move on to day 2, and I'll put it to Alex. Are there any decks here that you would have expected to be on this graphic?
Wouldn't have expected.
Or would have. That isn't.
Would have expected. I think Joe's kind of touched on the deck that I probably would have thought would have performed a little. Well, not performed. Would have been played a little bit more, and that's probably like Gardevoir. Obviously, we saw it take down a regional over in Australia by Kato, and obviously that was like a different build to what we've kind of seen in recent times as well with the rare candies and well, without the rare candies, I should say, in comparison to what we've seen recently in other more Western regionals per se. That's probably the only one, but I don't think, and again, don't quote me on this because I might be inherently wrong, but it probably wouldn't have been far off from the 5.9% on Miraidon anyway. I'd expect it to be at the 5%. I expect like Lugia's to be at 5%. There's a whole host of other decks that should be around that sort of mark as well. And it's just like Iron Thorn's Dragapult is another one that we, maybe just miss off as well. So yeah, it's hard to say. All of these decks, depending on where you are in the world, will be a slight variation on this kind of scenario. I think we'll always end up with like a top 2 most represented, like over 10%. It kind of feels like that's the direction we're going. And then the rest kind of fall in line where it's like there's a percentage or 2 between them, and they'll just kind of jump between positions from tournament to tournament from going forward. Yeah,
fair enough. And then moving on to day 2, then I'll rattle off the percentages. What were you laughing at? Regidrago,
a great time.
Pretty much 22%, then Charizard at 14%, Snorlax control, or Snorlax focused control as they put it, 7%, and then Lugia making a comeback finally on a graphic for the first time for a long time, at 6%, Gardevoir 6%, and then Iron Thorn's Dragapult EX. We'll go through the kind of best of the rest shortly, but I think the big thing that the big message from me was that Lugia's back, ? Now there's been obviously an uptick in Iron Thorns in the archetype with Dragapult, so how it snuck in, I'm quite unsure, because I don't think the meta has changed that much. Even so, I think the meta is actually more threatening to Lugia with that uptick in Iron Thorns after just winning a regional. After just getting top 8 or a couple of top 8s at regionals. So where do we think that's come from?
I think it just speaks to the fact that you can easily get a 6-1 record. They played 9 rounds, right? 6-1 record, still playing Lugia, even with 5% Thorns, 5% Dom, just because of how wide the spread is. And Lugia is still very decent into the other racing decks. It's very reasonable, still into like Charizard, which never has the space to tech anymore, and Drago. there's still a split between people if there's any Sinnoh. If there's no Sinnoh, I feel pretty confident as Lugia. If there's Sinnoh, it's still a close matchup, but without it, I feel pretty good. And I think sort of joining those upper tables are the Gardevoirs, which are also close, and the the Snorlax matchups, which is still one of the only boasts of Lugia, right, that sets you aside from a lot of the other decks, is that you laugh into most Snorlax, and many other decks can't say that. So, yeah, I mean, Lugia is really underplayed. I was actually expecting it to make a small resurgence this weekend. I had it around like 8 to 9% when I was doing my meta breakdown. But I had a lot of
that's pretty high.
I had a lot of elevated percentages, but I thought Lugia was going to make day one of the graphic because we had the spike of Miraidon, then it dipped again. So then I thought there was a window of opportunity for Lugia, but I guess people were still worried. Maybe it was that Dragathorns, for example, Rab, that was also gaining notoriety, I suppose, in different areas.
Yeah.
But with a format as wide as this, you can easily get 61 records and obviously go further with Lugia. If you're the one that makes it to the top tables, you just face Drago, and that's where you want to be. So I definitely think Lugia is like underplayed, and we can see that from the day 1 to 2 conversion, even if it is only a small nod to it.
Yeah, very much a dodge and weave meta, I suppose, and that's only a testament to it. Now, Alex, you had obviously touched upon Snorlax maybe being a bit of a, I would say, a underappreciated archetype going into the Spillie Awards. Now, Snorlax made a pretty good impact into this one, being the 3rd most popular archetype into day 2. Do you think this is where it had its best chance at making a big impact?
Yes and no. I mean, it's always going to face a format now which is so varied that, again, like you just mentioned, it's going to have to bob and weave certain matchups, bob and weave certain techs that may just kind of end up it being a bit of collateral when it's a tech card that's being utilized in certain decks. It's always should be a deck that has to be sort of I don't know, on people's radars when they're actually having to go into a large tournament, I suppose. It's testament that it has obviously converted fairly well, I suppose, because obviously we didn't see it on the day 1 graphic. But that's, again, because we're seeing all these other decks that it typically does well into. The Charizard suddenly come to the fore. It can do okay into Regidrago, especially when there's the different techs that they might be utilizing as well. And there was a fall off in the Lugia numbers. So it seems to be an opportunity for things like Snorlax or cards that utilize retreat lock in decks, because we actually did see it in some decks, and you might look at it in a bit as well. But in Gardevoir, for example, there was a couple of people who were playing Mawile. There was Kieran Farah playing Wellspring Ogerpon with the Sob attack, and I think he actually explains it in his video a little bit more as well. And again, it's a testament to, well, it's kind of just confirming everything I was thinking about, that it's actually quite a useful card or useful sort of attack or ability to really slow down your opponent or potentially even just steal wins out of people's hands. And that's what Snorlax does. It does it very well. It's got some new technology in it as well to handle particular matchups that it struggled with. In the Klefkis, facing up against Claw, for example. Yeah, there's a lot going for it. And again, this is how every deck has to keep thinking about the next tournament, the next meta, how it's going to cycle, what we're going to expect next. And, this is just a moment where Snorlax found a pocket where it's actually done pretty well.
Yeah.
Have you tried the enriching energy, Rab?
I haven't. I do want to test it next week at locals. I think
it's insane.
Yeah,
I think it's very so good.
The Dunsparce in a Pidgeot V.
Rotating pennies.
Well, you can do it with Penny. Yeah, exactly. You attach them.
Well,
Penny.
there's different ways you can do it, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, Klefki was really smart.
Yeah, I love the addition of Klefki, actually. I think it's a very, very smart addition to it. But yeah, I'll be testing that very, very shortly. It might get me back on the Snorlax bus for Birmingham. Who knows?
You surprised me.
You surprised me. Yeah, exactly. I've got it sleeved up. It's ready to go.
You're joking.
You name a time and a place, and I'll be there. Let's get on to the best of the rest then before we get into top 8. So I've got it here. So I'll cut it off at just Gardevoir here. So then we've got Raging Bolt, Claw, Roaring Moon with 10 decks coming into that. Then Goldingo 9, Ancient Box, Lost Box, Pidgeot Control, and then I'll just go all the way down to the bottom, just to the ones. Banette, Hydreigon, hello, Joe's best mate. Regigigas, Giratina, Greninja, Blood Moon, Ursaluna, and Ceruledge. All making an appearance in day 2. And then, well, actually, I just wanted to ask, is there any sort of surprises there for either of you, just on that?
Not surprising.
Regigigas Pikachu even making it. I mean, I don't think it's
done that
particularly
before,
well.
right? Yeah, it's done it before as well.
It's done it once before.
Again, the breadth of numbers in terms of making it into day 2. I think it ended up in top 256 this time.
Yeah, congratulations, Kyle Morris, with the I'd say the moral victory of
moral victory.
I think the Roaring Moon numbers shouldn't be slept on. I know there aren't many going very deep. A lot of them are around that 250, 128 range, which might be the only reason why people aren't like taking more notice of the deck. But its numbers, despite its play, is pretty good. It's converting well, to be fair. Like much better conversion than some of the other aggressive decks that people are picking over it. Well, and that's been for a few events, to be honest, as well.
Came second in Bogota, right?
I'm looking at Casey Katsouris' his list here. Apologies if I'm probably saying that wrong. So apologies if I am. But there are a few additions to what we would expect a Roaring Moon EX deck to look like, obviously, back when it was very popular.
Wait, whose list are you looking at?
Casey Katsouris.
Oh, sorry. I'm on Ancient
20th,
Box.
20th. You're on Ancient Box. Sorry. Yeah, I'm on Roaring Moon.
Sorry.
So there are additions.
I thought you just picked a random one from the pile, to be honest.
There are some additions.
This was on stream, right? This list was on stream.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So Koraidon, Petra, and then the Petrant, I would say, are the only, and the Latias EX, of course.
I mean, the Scramble Switch is the big
And
surprise.
Scramble Switch.
Like we haven't really seen Water Energy Greninja since Galarian Molt V, right? Mm-hmm. When it made sense to play 4 E-Switch and was like less all in on Sada. But Scramble Switch is another way to get in with a Moonlight Shuriken, which is kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. I feel like I would want to go to full 4 Catcher if I was doing that, but it's the same shell, but just changing a prime for a scramble, or sometimes it's a reset stamp as well. So there is some like decision to be made around the Moon. And if you're seeing other ace specs go into the deck, then it tells you don't have to play a prime. And Scramble is another, like, there's not enough mana fee in the format for the evolving decks. They're just accepting that it's mostly Drago, and they put themselves into a weird Iono position and hope for the best.
Do you think this offers more? Do you think as an archetype this offers more to a player than Dengo and Raging Bolt? Or do you think Raging Bolt and Goldengo are just that little bit more consistent than
I think this provides more than Bolt, because I'm a huge hater on Bolt. Dengo, it's close. I think Dengo doesn't put itself in as many weird spots into Gouge. Like Gouge is awkward into a number of matchups, whereas Dengo can still represent a good body a lot of the time and be awkward. But this can fight in different ways. So I think they're kind of similar, especially a build like this that still has the Greninja option. Mm-hmm. Whereas in other avenues, it's like trying to weave in fletching or unrelenting, right, and try and be annoying in that regard, like do with the judge, hope for the best sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, you hear it here first. Joe Bernard says play Roaring Moon.
There you go.
And then back onto the others. I just wanted to have a look at that Blood Moon Ursaluna list, actually. It's just the baby Blood Moon. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Was this also on stream? I don't know if it's the same player or not.
It's the same player.
Well, there you go. Was it day one? I think it was day one, wasn't it?
I didn't know if it was actually.
Did it not play against Hydreigon? No, what? It was such a weird matchup that they had on stream.
I can't quite remember.
I swear it was Blood Moon versus Hydreigon. Am I tripping?
It feels like it was.
Well,
yeah.
There was a blast from the past for me, because I did see Yehoshua Tate actually got into day 2 with Hydreigon, and that's not a name that I've heard for a very long time, since Wishy Wallstall.
Oh, yes.
From long back in the day. So congratulations to him for another day 2. So Hydreigon with the Toad Scroll tech, a list that I know Alex and Joe are a big fan of. So So yeah, I don't know if you guys wanted to go into Hydreigon, but we can skip that, I guess.
I'd just like to say that the best player in the world went 2-3 with it. So can you all drop it now? Yeah. Can you just drop it?
2 other people played it alongside him though. I don't think they did too badly. They just kind of like.
Jesper went 3-3-3, so it went pretty bad.
I thought Fabian did okay.
Okay.
It was Fabian.
He's not showing up, which is weird.
I've never seen Joe so agitated.
Hang on, can I scroll down a bit? I'm not seeing him. I'm not seeing him. I'm not seeing it doing well.
Can we keep talking Hydreigon?
Somebody needs to confirm with Joe that Hydreigon's bad, but I don't think.
Can we just drop it? Yeah. Can you just everyone who said Joe you're wrong, just put an apology in. I'll give you my email and get a grip.
Right then, going into top 8. There was a Regidrago fest apart from 2 other decks.
You're leaving out the ASIM.
The what?
You're leaving out the ASIM.
How many was it, Alex?
12.
Was there 12? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can go through it. So it's two Gardevoir, another Regidrago, and Kieran Farrell with Lugia Archeops. Mm-hmm. That was the 9th to 12th, and then of course the top 8, as I said, 6 Regidrago, 2 different archetypes then made it as well, which was Raging Bolt and then Pidgeot Control. Now, when I first looked at the top 8, I thought Raging Bolt would be laughing here, but unfortunately could only make a top 4. But then
he beat Calvin Connor in Swiss.
Okay.
And lost to a top 4.
And then lost to it in top 4.
One of those.
It played Briar over Boss, which is kind of wild.
Oh yeah, it didn't have Boss. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah, the Raging Bolt. Yeah, so I got the Raging Bolt here, but an additional Prime Catcher because I know some of them only really play 2, right? 2's usually the
Pokemon Catcher.
Pokemon Catcher. Sorry, what did I say?
Yeah, Prime.
Prime Catcher. Yeah.
Or I might have misheard you, but yeah.
It did play 1 Prime Catcher anyway, obviously, but
yeah, seeing both Briar and Iono when previously the winning list from Caleb didn't play either of those and played Boss instead was quite interesting, right?
Yeah. And then plays
was the only undefeated into cut as well. Which is kind of
does play Iron Bundle as well, but that's not, that's
Bundle's pretty standard, I think, especially if you're not playing Boss.
Yeah, doesn't always get you over the line though, does it? More than Boss, but yeah.
Maybe it's one of those weird situations where there's been so few Briar that people play into Briar and then just lose. You know?
Yeah, I mean you have to hit heads on one of those catcher, right? Like, I don't think you can get away with not gusting.
Double bundle, baby. Let's go.
Bundle.
Yeah, I don't think you can get away with not gusting twice with Raging Bolt in some matchups.
I don't know. I mean, look how much Drago there's around. I feel like Vincent just had a good enough run that then his tables were Dragos.
I mean, yeah, good news. I think I had.
And he played Vacuum for Guardy as well, which is good. Like playing Vacuum and Briar with Guardy around the top tables as well is really freaking good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like 6 Dragos across his Swiss rounds. And then it was like
not bad.
Pretty good run.
Yeah.
Just get on the right record and you'll face them all.
Yeah.
That's what you said about Lugia, right?
That's why you don't see Charizard at the top tables.
All right.
You do well enough and you fall. I hit one.
And then getting into the finals, it was 2 Regidrago, but then Calvin Connor going home with the win in what I would say is an explosive final. If none of you have watched it, I would definitely go and watch it. It was a flip for the win scenario on an Alolan Executor EX on a Swing Sphene. But yeah, it was a great final to watch again with two very good established players. But Regidrago then, I mean, I've touched on it already, showing its dominance once more. I had a chance to play it obviously last night actually at locals, and it just feels so smooth, Regidrago, and just like any other.
You're only just figuring this out.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Might be a few months late.
Same list for months, yeah.
Yeah. Been saying it for ages. I've been such a big fan of this archetype.
There's a Alolan Executor now.
But it just goes to show how strong it is, really. Just like any other toolbox that we've had in the previous formats, Mew 3 most recently, I guess. They can really make a big impact, especially with so many different cards that have come out over time. Alolan Executor, Giratina V-Star, Goodra, Kyurem, all of these cards from various different subsets. makes a more complete package, of course, with this archetype. But did you guys have? Do you think we're there now with a list? This is the penultimate list.
I think the stadiums are going to change week to week. I think this was the right week to play both Sinnoh and Tower. We said that last week on the pod. Like Alex was saying, respect the cloth, and these stadiums do that. And it's also just like collateralling Lugia, collateralling Gardevoir, that sort of stuff, which is just always good. I think this is the right package of dragons. Sometimes you could debate Terra Orb coming in. I think Terra Orb always goes in over second Pult now, just because there's the option of Egg. I'm still like quite cold on Egg, to be honest. Like, I don't love it, but I feel like its highest value was when there was Boufflant Terapagos, and there just isn't that now. But I see enough people just announce the coin flip and say, I guess I win in this spot if it's X. Yeah. Like, that happened a lot on stream. And I think actually in finals, Callie could have taken the coin flip on turn 2 for a 50-50 win on the spot, and they chose not to take it. They V-Star powered and got a Goodra out to Rolling Iron. And I feel like that was a big mistake, actually. They played quite questionably in game 3 of finals, actually. I think that's why Cal had such a big like overreaction to his win. I just want to like throw out a just general public service announcement that in that moment it's so obvious that Cal was just like overstimulated because he had this brick hand. He got bailed out by a shake.
You all about the slap? The kind of slap.
Yeah, I'm on about the slap, right? So like he got bailed out from a brick, then he gets himself into this strong position because he's able to prime boss and get ahead, but then he's low on resources, so then he still has to swinging Sphere to try his best to still win, knowing that his highest odds right now are this 50-50 coin flip. There were a few other lines looking back. It wasn't like insta win or lose based on the flip, but this 50-50 is probably his highest percentage chance to win at that point in the game based on what resources he has left. So he takes the flip, he gets the heads, and he does this big slap, right? And like his Muse spinning around like a Beyblade, he slaps a card, Ogerpon goes flying, and that's like, I feel we can all agree that there's no malice in what he did. He was just like overwhelmed with emotion at the time because it was like a stressful situation. He's just come away with a win, which he's been looking for years, even though he's a top player. But I do just want to say, like, that action probably is unsporting behavior, I would say, and that can get you in trouble. We've seen that you can be in trouble in these sorts of situations. Obviously, there aren't really like one-to-ones like this, but I would just say you have to be very, very cautious of how you play in any game of Pokemon, but especially on stream when it's high profile in these situations. Keeping that composure, I feel like, is really important, because imagine a situation, and I think it could have been a situation, even though I don't think there was any malice behind what Cal did. I feel like the action probably was unsporting conduct, because you're literally like potentially damaging someone's cards and you're just like doing an aggressive gesture. That it could, like, honestly, that could have been a discussion with judges for 20 minutes onwards. You know, that could have been a whole thing. It could have been a really awkward situation. So you have to try and divorce your emotion out of the situation. You're always going to play better on stream if you can do that, and that will come over time. But I think Cal's been on stream enough times where he probably shouldn't have been like so like sort of G'd up, but I guess just the situation of the game. And he also did a long post in his victory post that it was an emotional weekend for him anyway, just because of outside of Pokemon things going on. So I think he was just like overcome with emotion, and that's why the action came out. But what I just want to say is, like, you should really try and be conscious of the actions you're doing on stream, because we don't want any other awkward situations in Pokemon. So just try and compose yourself, like, celebrate by all means, but try and be respectful of your opponent as your top priority the whole time. So that's just my soapbox.
I think a lot of people can give him the benefit of that, given the situation that he was in with the final and the emotions and stuff like that.
I'm not trying to witch hunt him in any way. I'm just saying, like, the actions that he did could be construed as missporting conduct.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you're not doing it round 3, but you know.
Well, if you are,
imagine
it's not going to turn into some sort of Tekken fighting game community, but. I agree.
But the final was crazy for that. And if you want to look back at that game 3 specifically, I went into like a fine-tooth comb because there was a discussion we had in our team chat about it. So I was looking at every card in the discard pile and this, that, and the other. And I think, Callie made some weird plays in game 3. Definitely feel like they didn't play the way to give themselves the best chance to win, but it completely opened the door for Cal, who, and I think, to be fair, he made the bold call with that coin flip, and obviously it looks good when it comes off, but even if he flips tails there, I still think that was the right line to take after much consideration. Sorry, yeah, if it flips heads. The only other thing I think you could do is like a Kirim play and hope that with Mew EX on the board, you can try and still weave in a Radzard later if the opponent just starts Iona disrupting you. But that's probably sub 50% at that point, so it was the right call to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough. And then just following on from Toronto then, our next couple of events, well, there's actually one this weekend over in Japan before our regional championships in January. Osaka is going to be somewhat of a well-watched, I would say, with a lot of eyes on it from our European community, just ahead of EUIC 2025. Birmingham isn't going to be on our next set, but EUIC will be, of course, because there's new cards released, obviously, from our next set, going to be available to our Japanese companions. I think the reason why Osaka's got a little bit of attention from the playing community is the impact of this guy here, Budew. So Budew has been a little bit of a hot topic, I would say, within the community, well, at least that I've seen, because of the impact it could make. Itchy pollen, it does look very, very innocent, I would say. 30 HP, not that much, little baby Pokemon amongst the flowers. However, when you read that subtext, itchy pollen during your opponent's next turn, they can't play any item cards from their hand. Now, for anybody who has access to Japanese lists on Pokébook or whatever it is, from various different city leagues, you'll see that this guy's been running riot amongst all different types of lists and different archetypes. I think there's no archetype that wouldn't involve this little guy in their lists. Now, I think why it's a hot topic is because people aren't really consistently anticipating its actual impact. A lot of people are saying, oh yeah, it's a little bit of a problem, but it's not too much of an issue. You're going to be playing it for your first couple of turns, but that's it. Where then on the other side, a lot of people are saying this could be potentially problematic. This could be very, very detrimental to the format. We did a few bits of research before this podcast. There are 13 pages of lists from our city leagues on Limitless, which is almost 1,300. It's between 1,200 and 1,300 lists that are involving Budew. And it isn't going to be... there's a lot of different archetypes that are including this, like I said, all the way from Terrapagus to Gardevoir, even Ceruledge, you name it, Budew's in there. Now, Joe, you're most in tune with Japan and how their metas are going. How do you see Budew at the moment and its potential impact?
Well, I think it's just really a sign of how games are in the TCG right now, where we're looking at 4-turn, 5-turn games, and if that's item locked for a turn, denies rare candy, you're denying some of the scariest things in the game, you're denying Pidgeot, you're denying Dusknoir, you're denying a lot of strong attackers, which is one thing. But then also, even looking at Drago that's so reliant on energy switches, then you're denying that turn 2 attack. You're denying so much stuff by just going, okay, I'll retreat and Budew. So much so that it's better than TM Evo in a lot of decks. It's better than all this other stuff you can do. It's better than tempo attacks in a lot of situations now. So I think it's clear that evolving archetypes will try this. Certainly Gardevoir, certainly Dragapult, they're probably all going to play Budew, I would say, reliably, just because you can stop a lot of even things like Generator and Miraidon. A lot of the aggressive decks, they need items to cycle through the deck, but also just to get their game plan online. But then because there's more of these stage 2 decks, then it's also catching more rare candy out, which is good. I think the general meta shift is that because Gardevoir can play a very thick line of Curlier, and Dragapult can play a very thick line of Drakloak. Naturally, those are the stage 2s that stand out as the best, because they don't care, they can't rare candy, they can still draw a bunch of cards, they can still get their engine online. They can even use TM Evolution in the face of a Budew, and then get even more set up and really shrug in the face of the item lock. So it's not like it's absolutely destroying stuff, but it can buy that turn, which I think is really notable. And then looking at stuff like Ceruledge, Miraidons and stuff like that, Well, it's a little bit different between the two because Sereg doesn't really have a good turn 1 attack play, so you may as well just retreat into it. Basically, any deck that has 1 retreat cost basics can try this and just say, I've got nothing else to do on this turn. Like a Terapagos Pidgeot, for example, doesn't have anything to do, so if you can just get the Budew into the active position, you may as well do that and then have a good attack from then on, and that's what Sereg will try and do. But then there's stuff like Miraidon and Raging Bolts where you're seeing it a little bit less because you're going to have your plan A situation a lot of the time, but Budew is a great plan B. It's similar to like a Cleffa as a plan B option where you're like, I'm putting something that's not exposing me entirely. I'm not going to give up too many prize cards if this doesn't work. But sometimes that turn of Budew lets me then pop off on the following turn and still be the one to initiate the 2 prize knockout first, essentially is what we're going for here. Because many of these decks can force 2 prize, 2 prize, 2 prize just based on the Dexim formats or the way they can cheat prizes with Sniping or Dust Noir or Briar or whatever else, Togekiss. So all of these decks can just go like, right, my attacker is ready, 2/2/2. And the Budew means that you can be the one doing that first, is essentially the long story short for the setup decks, but also the aggressive decks can be like, well, I didn't get 4 energy on Iron Hands, so I'll Budew this turn and try again next turn.
Now, we've seen a few different types of... we've seen a few different approaches that Pokemon have taken to a meta where it's very fast-paced. We've already seen the you can't support her if you're going first, all of these different types of approaches. But Alex, do you think a card like this can be meta-defining? Do you think that this card is the answer to the format, like Joe says, to try and slow things down a bit? I just want to give you just one little stat before you can answer. Pokega actually did a little bit of analysis on how many City League decks contained Budew from the moment of its release all the way up until the 8th of December, I believe, the weekend of the 8th of December, and 55% of decks contained at least one copy of Budew. And I think, Joe, from what you told me
in the top
earlier,
16s.
In top 16, sorry. And then I think, Joe, from what you said, that's actually increased since then.
Yes.
which is an absurd amount. It almost makes it look like this is going to be a staple card. But Alex, back to the original question, do you think that this is the answer that Pokemon needs, and do you also mirror that sentiment that this may be a staple in many lists?
Because of the flexibility of the cards, I mean, it's also got free retreat as well, right? So it does kind of just, as Joe mentioned, just fills in that slot that Cleffa's always done in a number of archetypes. It obviously will have a massive impact. Obviously, at the same time that we take online results as sort of with a pinch of salt, City Leagues are an opportunity for a lot of Japanese players or players in that region to test a number of things. So that's why they're kind of maybe jamming in a Budew more often than not. Yeah, right. So I mean, like, just flicking through those 13 pages, there's literally every deck that we see in the current meta game has tried and tested a Budew and actually made top 16 of their sort of maximum top 64 player tournaments, right? I think it's a very good card. I think it will be splashable into a number of archetypes. I think in a similar vein to when you're having to look into a meta in a tournament, you kind of have to expect you're going to be Itchy Pollen turn 1 if you went first. And then it's just down to whether their players will be able to kind of work out or have an out or way around it. The interesting thing is, obviously, we're going to eventually do a conversation around rotation. We have this, it's going to be after EUIC, of course, but then that's when we're starting to really get closer to kind of the rotation period. How does that change things from that point onwards is going to be more interesting than it is now, I think. And whether this weekend we're going to see just the one splashable Budew or we're going to see 4 played in certain decks just because, it's so important just to get an Itchy
Budew, Dust Noir, Blood Moon.
Exactly.
No, sorry, carry on.
No, but that's it. It's one of those, because obviously it does 10 damage. Obviously it doesn't need any energies to be able to fire off an attack. Yes, it's obviously the squishiest thing imaginable. But it's a massive threat to the game right now because we are very heavily reliant on items to turbo through decks, to turbo through sort of just match up game plans right now. So decks will have to adapt, and we'll get a first view on it, on how impactful it will be this weekend in their, I don't know, 4,000 to 5,000 man and woman tournament that we'll have in Japan.
I'm sure after Sunday we'll be getting a lot of people kind of either lighting their pitchforks or celebrating as to how positive they think Budew can make an impact on, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm sure people will be very expressive of their views in the coming days and weeks.
Sorry, I did just want to say quickly on City Leagues. The one thing I can't understand is why Drago is like far less played. I have seen a few than I would still expect it to be good. Like I know it's a little bit weak to Budew, but I have seen lists play their own Lati so they can get Budew as Reggie, which is quite funny. But also you can play like Power Glass, or you can play Crispin as well. There are ways that you can still get a Drago like brute forced out into Budew, and I think it's going to be this weekend where we see the adaptation of lists more than anything else. I think there'll be a lot of Gardevoir, a lot of Dragapult at this tournament, but I also think there will be stuff like Drago still having a big impact that is then respected and tweaked to respect Budew to still have a good time, because this isn't a Doomsday card. It's a slow them down for a turn style card, but they've already had a turn of potential Squawk and lots of draw power, and they've had the potential to like react to stuff and still get a little bit set up. It just means they have to be on all cylinders that little bit earlier on in the game to still represent a lot of pressure.
The only way I can
bunging
see
those energy switches turn one. Yeah.
The only way I can see it
just
being,
hit it.
The only way I can see it being viewed as a bit of a Doomsday card is because of how splashable it is. It's a card that definitely doesn't discriminate in terms of what decks are going to be put in. It's a free attack cost, free retreat.
Like it's definitely meta warping. There's no doubt about that.
There's no problem putting it in anything. I think the only way that it could be viewed as a Doomsday card is if it puts an element of staleness, I would say. I don't know if that's a word, but it could make the format a little bit stale in terms of if it is so popular and being in every deck, every game is going to start off with, I'm being Itchy Pollen turn 1. And then
we know that there's enough RNG in Pokemon that you can't always do what you want to do turn 1.
Sure.
Sure.
I guess so, but even more so when you're being oppressed by item lock, right? So
it's like ending your turn on Cleffer is always good, and that's not done all the time, right?
No.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because there's plenty of cards, right, like Joe's already mentioned, that actually just work under item lock from this Budew, right? As long as you can set up and get a turn 1 where you can draw into some cards with Squawkabilly, with other opportunities that you can, and then you draw into your Crispin, so you're ready to fire off next turn. You draw into your TM evolutions so that you can just kind of begin bursting through. 10 damage isn't really going to do enough. The only time it's ever going to be sort of quote unquote toxic is if for one tournament and one tournament only, everyone goes, I'm not thinking about Budew. Don't worry about it. It's not going to happen. No one's going to play this card. No one's got any, or something like that. And then the next week after that, everyone's going to be all right. Well, the whole deck's going to change. We're all going to be playing Iron Thorns Dragapult with TM evolutions, or just kind of working my way through decks like that. It shouldn't break the game, because at the end of the day, as we've all said, it's 30 HP. It still kind of needs to be retreated into more often than not, and still kind of be, those turn 1s you might not find it, and then it's just okay, back to the usual.
Is Zard the most backbroken of the top decks by this? I feel like it is, right? Maybe Terrapagos Pidgeot somewhat. Those are the decks that feel like most hard done by
I'd say anything that relies on Pidgeot, right?
Yeah, those might be the ones that feel a lot worse than they do now, but I feel like the other top decks in the game are still all fine.
We'll probably, with something like Charizard, and I know you hate the deck already, but it'll probably go back to how it may have been built with TM Evolution at one point, right?
It's finally Barrel Zard time. Let's go.
It could be, but yeah, it could just be.
I tried Fan Rotom Zard before, don't worry, I've got a list.
Actually, the one list I'm actually looking at, which looks kind of cool, is the Dragapult Noctowl Terrapagos list, which seems kind of cool right now with the Dracula to be able to draw and knocked out Dual Seekers everywhere. But yeah, people will adapt. I think it'll be fine. But it'll be fun to kind of guess how many Budews we're actually going to see across the Champions League.
I think that's what I'm most anticipating is the number of Budew. I think we all know it'll be there, but how many people will play? I think that's the draw for me. That's just what I'm so excited about, guys. I don't know.
We'll see a lot of them, I'm sure.
Right. Well, moving on. We can move on to the best bit about the podcast, I guess. I know many people will have just fast forwarded to this bit and just got get everything else
everyone
out of the way.
A timestamp.
We're only listening.
No timestamp.
We're only listening to the Spillies. This is hotly anticipated, hot off the press. I put the first and final reminder out for votes. I think earlier today. People have got them in as well. Over 100.
How many votes? Go on.
Just over 140. So I've got 100.
That's insane.
I've got 148 responses from.
That's actually insane,
which is pretty good. And of course, if you haven't had a chance to vote in this one, you got a chance next year. So.
So look forward to that.
So look forward to that. You'll have to listen out to when we do the announcement for that. But we can go through the award winners one by one, and you can give me your. I know you're not seeing my screen, so you can go through what you thought.
You need to guide us, I think.
Yeah, what you thought.
How this is going to work.
Or link us, or screen share, or
no. I'll go through it.
No way.
So best deck of the year. The options were Gardevoir EX, Regidrago, and Charizard EX. Now, I think, Alex, you went for Gardevoir. Joe, you went for Charizard. Is that right? Well, what do we think would won?
I think
Charizard.
I think Charizard won.
It's not.
There's one correct answer.
Recency bias of
Drago.
Well, that's pure recency bias, and this
51%.
This whole ceremony is a joke now.
51% of the population went with my option, which is just great.
I actually don't want to hear the opinions of the 140 people anymore.
That was actually Ben's 100 responses for himself.
Charizard then went with 34.3%, and then Gardevoir with the wholesome 14.7%.
Great.
Most hated deck of the year. The options were Chen-Pao, Lost Box, and Lugia. This was an overwhelming win, I would say, for one of these choices. Which one do you think the population went with? It was Lugia. Lugia, 70.5% of the vote.
That's ridiculously
which is crazy. Lost Box then with 16.4%, and then Chen-Pao with 13% coming in third.
People just didn't play Chen-Pao, simple as that.
Yes.
Yeah, because of how bad it was.
Yeah.
Or they felt
more
really
people
bad
have been stung by
that
Lugia.
Their opponent flipped tails as a Lugia and lost because of it.
Mm-hmm.
This was more of a close one, I would say. The Love-Hate Relationship Awards, Lostina, Gardevoir, Regidrago. Who do we think?
It's a tough one.
I
think
one.
Guardi probably won.
Yeah.
I think
Guardi's top of my list there.
Well, you're wrong again, guys. It was Lostina with 44%. Then Gardevoir in second. Gardevoir then in second with 36%, and then Regidrago with 20%. So that was our closest one thus far. People just loving Tina and hating.
Who's collecting the awards for the decks, Ben?
I don't know. I'll have a look at who's won the most CP with each other.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that would actually be really funny.
Or the lowest for some of
the lowest.
Alberto Conte is getting that award.
The lowest that are on Limited.
Players in most need of a hug. Options were Lugia, me. Lugia players, sorry. Lugia V-Star players, me specifically, and Raging Bolt enthusiasts. Who do we
Now I hope you won, Rav.
I didn't.
It can only be you.
But I think Lugia players won.
And it wasn't Lugia either. It was Raging Bolt enthusiasts with 40% of the vote. I was then in second with 37%, and then
37.
Lugia then at 22%. I got a lot of messages saying that they hope I'd win, but
you're going to get constant hugs at tournaments now.
To no avail.
I hope people like come up behind you and like jump scare you because you know how touchy you are.
Yeah. Never hug Rab from the front. Hug him from behind and
just jump scare me. I'm a jumpy guy anyway, so that'll make my life really difficult.
Oh my God, really great.
Most overhyped deck. Now, this was more or less in between two choices. The third choice was pretty much withered away, but most overhyped, it was Raging Bolt, Lugia, and Dragapult EX.
I think Bolt won.
It wasn't. It was Dragapult EX.
Wow.
With 53%.
Everyone believes you.
Raging Bolt at 43.
I must have made such a good argument for it at the time.
And then Lugia with just a slither of the vote.
Masterclass.
Then most underrated. Now, this was again another fair representation in each of the choices. It was Snorlax, Iron Thorns, and Palkia Dusknoir. I'm actually gonna have to go down to the wire for this one. No. So the
I think
third place was Iron Thorns. Let me just hover over each of them.
What do you say was first?
Oh, it was actually a tie.
Dead heat.
So in third place it was Iron Thorns, and then Palkia Dusknoir and Snorlax had the same amount of votes, 52.
Wow.
So yeah,
wow.
Crazy.
Best artwork. So now we're getting into the real competition.
Here we go.
This is the big one.
Clive Perrin,
Can we send it to the illustrators, please?
Clive Perrin and Eri. No, it was actually Perrin that won. Yeah, sorry guys. Perrin with 44%, and then Eri in second, and then Clive in third place.
Clive.
Rip Clive.
Yeah, I'm surprised at that. I thought people would have loved.
The images were quite small. I think that doesn't help Clive's cause.
It doesn't.
Outrageous.
Maybe
on the
not.
Google form.
And then Best EX, Greninja, Terrapagos, and Mew. What do we think?
I think Mew won.
I don't think Mew won.
You think Greninja won?
Yeah.
Probably. It was Greninja. Greninja had 42%, Mew in second, and then Terrapagos in third place.
Rip.
And then Best Illustration, which is the last of our card awards. Tatsugiri, Persian, and Squirtle.
Probably a Squirtle win.
It wasn't. It was a Tatsugiri.
That is bull.
No!
That is bull.
Tatsugiri with 50% of the votes. Actually, I think everybody I spoke to about these awards all voted for Tatsugiri.
Right, so it's just your mates.
So, just your mates. Brilliant. It's just Wales.
Just
demographic of votes.
Please. Mate, I don't know 71 people, including you two. So
you don't know 69 people.
Well, that number will increase by the number of hugs you'll get in the next tournament. So.
Yeah, think of that.
Maybe.
If you get 70 hugs, we'll know something's up.
Tatsugiri
we're tallying it.
Tatsugiri prices have gone up after this vote. Squirtle then in second place, and then Persian in third.
Unbelievable.
And now getting on to the funnier stuff. Award for outstanding embarrassment. There was an over-resounding win, I would say, for one of these choices. It was Joe and Ross testing partners, me and the Utrecht Spiritomb Sanaga.
Did you ever fix the link?
I did, and then Daniel Magda, end of top 8 review. Can I please say something?
I have no idea.
It was Daniel.
So
Daniel,
I thought you were giving them out as the actual results. Yeah, Daniel was. To be fair, I think Joe and Ross's one should have won, but.
No, Daniel won. So I'll give him an award for that.
Because it's embarrassing that Joe has no idea about Ross.
Yeah, he won with 59% of the awards. Then best stream game, Ivanov versus Hedrick. Sorry.
Hendrick.
Ian Rob versus
that's his gin, isn't it?
Ian Rob versus Fernando Cifuentes, and then Rahul Reddy versus Ryuki Okada.
I feel like Ian's probably won just because it's funnier.
It's most memorable.
Well, it wasn't. It was Ivanov.
Ivanov's won. Wow. That was the best game of the year.
60% of the votes, so quite a large portion, I would say.
It was a good game.
Do you reckon I could swap the audio from the most recent flip, from the AIC flip? Yeah.
And then this is, of course, the big one, the certificate, the Spillie Certificate of Great Achievement and Success Award. The options were Andrew Hedrick, Brent Thomason, and Giovanni Sasso. Who do we think, boys, on those three options?
I think it's tough.
It's a tough one.
How is it close? Is it close between two?
Between two.
Are you already showing the results and me and Joe are just blind to what everyone else is seeing?
Yeah, of course.
Good. So I feel like Sasso probably didn't get the votes he maybe deserved for how good his year was. So I think it's probably between the other two. I think Brent won.
You are
I still
correct.
back Hedrick.
Boo. You're correct. Yeah, Brent won 44% of the vote against Andrew's
I demand a recount.
38. And Giovanni.
That's good because Brent will probably accept 18%. The award.
Yes, I was very,
and he'll definitely be in attendance.
I was very close to messaging him today, but I was busy with the baby, so I'll message him afterwards to say, "Would you like to say any kind words?" And I'll put it on the Twitter. I'll quote him.
Please ask him for a video that you can play for the pod.
Hi, Brent. You don't know me, but can you please say something?
Here's your Spillie.
Here's your Spillie Award. The first recipient of a Spillie Award goes to Brent.
That's why he does it. That's why he does it.
That's why he does this. That's why he travels. That's the way the commitment gets you. You could win a Spillie one day.
It's finally all paying off.
You could win a Spillie one day. You could win a Spillie one day.
Could
but yeah, those were the ends of the Spillies. I'm glad everybody had fun during that. We certainly did.
I'm glad it's over.
Yeah. Are you?
Yeah.
Let's do one. We could do an award every month if you like.
No.
Player of the month. Is that what
we want it to be? We still want it to mean something.
Goal of the month.
No. We could do a player of the month. That would be such a good idea.
That's just whoever won the biggest tournament each month.
No. Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah. No. Yeah.
It would.
Yeah,
be,
that wouldn't work.
Probably.
Or we could do it. We could do
a
player of the quarter.
That's just looking at the IC standings.
No,
that's not necessarily true. give him a chance, Joe.
Limitless.
No, we want the Spillies to mean something, so we'll do it once a year.
Right, fine.
Otherwise, they won't even respect it.
We've got to do this for another year, have we?
They won't respect the Spillie.
We need them to respect the Spillie and how rare they truly are.
I think we've got great respect on the Spillies.
These are going to be like Pikachu trophies. There's only one a year.
Yeah, there can be only one Spillie a year. And,
imagine the clout.
And Brent's gone home with it. I bought.
Yeah, you haven't finished making it.
I bought a cup from a charity shop. It's like a proper cup and saucer, on a bit of.
Why would you do cup and saucer?
What?
Sorry.
Saucer, isn't it?
I mean, I guess it's the tea. Okay.
It's a teacup.
Okay.
Just forgot the name of this pod already.
What?
On a block of wood.
Have you super glued it down to the saucer?
I feel like glue it to a playmat, so he has to
I'm
whip
gonna
it out.
Glue it
like
to
an
a
Eiffel
playmat.
Tower. There's just like a tower where his prizes are.
The foam case as well, so he can take it home, not damaged.
Oh, that would be excellent. we can't have any damage on that.
I'll try and see if I can get some styrofoam from Christmas.
We should get some. We should like paint on the cup our signatures or like a drawing from each of us.
Very good. That's such a good idea.
Draw Brent.
Or we'll get Brent to give us 3 Pokemon to draw on there.
Or can we just draw each other?
That sounds dangerous.
Bags of Joe.
We'll end up with a drawing party again.
Right.
I'm just thinking of South Park now.
Oh, that's the end of it.
Sake.
Anybody up to anything good on the weekend?
If I start feeling a bit better, I'm a bit under the weather, but if I feel well enough, I'll try and stream some of the Champions League this weekend.
Nice.
Haven't streamed for a while, and I never stream the official streams because I don't want to take viewers away. I don't want to take as many as 3 viewers away from the main stream. So I'll, but I don't have any qualms because it's a different language stream. So I will do Champions League stream if I'm up to it.
You're so moral. You're so.
You're so moral.
Well, the problem is if no one watches the main streams, then we won't get jobs anymore. So
please.
Azul, stop.
Please, I beg.
He only takes a few hundred, right? For now, until people realise that he's doing more and more. Anyway.
Alex, you up to anything?
I was going to try and get to a cup, but after all this kerfuffle that was on the Twitterverse or Xverse, where all these cups had no people in it, all the cups near me are booked. So
no,
it might not be a cup available for me.
You've heard it was a ghost town, and now I guess a lot of people will be traveling like to their family homes this weekend, so have found ones
jog back off.
They're local.
I'm doing all my Christmas family stuff this weekend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna try and
family meal Sunday.
You're gonna whip out my mug again.
I always whip out your mug. I whip out your mug every day.
Oh, are you hosting?
Yes, I will be for my immediate family.
Can we decide who Dow family mug is going to
this weekend? See, I like to give it to somebody different every time.
Well, that's what I mean. So who's next on the list?
It keeps
who's next
the confusion
on the hit
up. Probably my dad.
Who's got so far?
Yeah.
Who's got what?
Who's been mugged off so far?
Mostly Harriet's family. It's very funny. I said you were I said for context, Dow gave me a mug for one Christmas. I got it from a Secret Santa of him and his family.
Which said Merry Christmas.
So the first time I get
and only shows when it's with a hot drink.
It's a temperature-based mug.
It's a temperature.
So it's blank, and then it becomes the family. Yeah.
And then the one time I said it must have been the family that was here previously, which didn't make any sense. It has layers to the joke.
In a new build, is it?
Yeah. It was just here when I got here. It's just a haunted mug.
Just the builder.
Yeah, and I got to try and fight somebody for 8 cans of Guinness at some point before the weekend as well.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
One-handed because you're holding.
I think it's more, isn't it? Isn't it more of a shortage in actual pubs rather than cans?
I think it's pubs. Yeah.
It's cans as well. You can't get it on Amazon. That's how desperate I was.
Not my usual place to go to for.
Yeah, I was going to say, why are you getting it from Amazon, bro?
Yeah. Right. Okay. We'll end it there.
Yeah, maybe Tesco.
Maybe. But there's supermarkets that sell it.
What the?
He hasn't been out of the house for about 4 weeks.
I haven't. That's a good point. Well, I went to locals yesterday, but that was about it.
Good.
Tested Regidrago. It's good, actually. Yeah.
It's so smooth.
It's so smooth.
Which is a surprise.
Smooth. I played Regidrago and a couple of hands of Goldago. Yeah.
What a day.
It's good.
Big day for you.
Good day out. Right, okay, well, we'll end it there. Thanks, everybody, for listening, if you made it this far.
Go on. And we're probably not doing one next week, right?
No, we're not. No, because it's Christmas.
Festive.
So we have it off.
Festive gap.
Yeah.
And I am travelling after that as well, but hopefully before the New Year, in between Christmas and New Year.
You're going on Boxing Day.
Should we do a quiz?
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying that I could call in.
Should we do a live stream
quiz? Oh, please.
Huh? Should we do a live stream quiz?
Live stream quiz? Definitely not.
Why?
No, Joe. This is where we both say yes and let Rab do it by himself.
No. We should do a live stream.
General knowledge, music, history, geography. What else you want in there?
I'll be the chaser.
Okay, good. Then yes, I will play.
And we'll bring in more people. That would be such a good idea. Good. Okay, catch you in a bit. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.